right now. The first buck I've ever shot.
Alright, so this week's video we want to show you guys just a review of our 2014 whitetail season. We want to go over a strategy that worked for me and my friend Evan to harvest our whitetail bucks. And we also want to show you guys what did not work for us. Because we believe here at Huge Nuge Outdoor Adventures that if you're part of the hunting community, then you're a family to us. And we want to treat you like that. So we want to show you guys our secrets. We want to show you our failures, our struggles, and our successes. Because what we definitely don't want to do is paint a picture that every time you go out into the woods, it's a successful hunt. Because that's just not real and it's just not true. And so we want to just be totally real with you guys because that's what you deserve. So we just want to show you on this map that we used this year as a tool that we have, how to strategize and what we ended up doing and where we placed our tree stands and where we thought the deer were going to go. We really believe that after a couple of months of trial and error and mistakes that we kind of nailed down a strategy that once we implemented it, it was a successful hunt really quick. And so we want to share that with you guys in hopes that in 2015, you guys will harvest your buck in a timely manner as well. Because what's also important here for us is family. And the more time we spend in the field, it can sometimes result in less time with the family. So I'm sure you all can agree that the quicker we can get our bucks on the ground, the better. So let's check out this map. It's real cool. You can interact with it. You can draw on it. You can end up saving it, print it. It's just a real cool tool. We'll show you the details of the map and how to download it. And so let's check that out right now. Alright guys, this is the program. It's called Scribble Maps, the easiest way to draw and share maps. It's a really awesome program. It's got some cool tools inside that will enable you to keep track of your deer stands, your trail cams, and deer trails. You can map all of those on separate maps if you want and strategize a real good hunt plan. So once you get to this point and it's downloaded, you'll want to go to Create Map. Once you hit Create Map, it's going to take you to a map of the United States and Canada. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to go to the left-hand corner up here and type in your hunting location. And then it's going to search and take you right to your location. I'm already typed in and I'm already zoomed down into the area where I hunted this year. And so what I'd like to show you through this map is just how I strategized my hunt and what worked and what didn't work for us. So let's start off with what didn't work. So let's begin. This is the area that I'm going to hunt. What I have here is I've got field over here and a field over here. So the first thing you want to do when using any map is you want to determine the structure and layout of the land and what you have to work with. You want to study that land as in depth as possible and try to come up with a few places that you could start putting trail cams to see if deer are moving through that area. So that's what I did to initially start out my hunt of 2014. So let's take you to where I started out. Alright, here's a closer look of the area that I felt I would want to put a trail cam, which I ended up putting right over here. A few of the things that I considered before putting my trail cam in this area were things I think every hunter should consider. One was, do I have good access to this area and multiple access? Will the location I pick be favoring me for the predominant winds in my area? Do I have a good food source and do I have a good bedding area? And I could answer yes to all four of those questions when considering this spot. So I decided to put a trail cam right here. And as soon as I put a trail camera right there, I started producing really good photos, really good bucks in daylight hours. And I thought that this was a very successful spot and a very good spot, so I put a tree stand in the same area as my trail camera. So I had good access coming in from this area, this area, in this area. So I had 3 ways of getting into here. I felt that I had a good food source down here, with this being a cornfield. I had a good bedding area over here. And my wind was predominantly a northwest wind, which meant it was coming from over here. So I felt sitting in this tree stand that my wind would always be going out into this field and potentially dissipating before ever reaching the nose of a deer. So I thought I had everything that I needed for success, and so I placed a tree stand. I started sitting in that tree stand in September 1st, which was opening season, and I sat in this tree stand and started getting quick results. I had tons of encounters with does and tons of encounters with fawns. I was seeing good bucks on trail cams, which kept tempting me into this location. I kept hunting this location, but I was not seeing any bucks. And I want to just go over a couple of reasons why. Things that I felt that I was failing. So if you have a look at the way that these trees are laid out, it's a pretty good bunch of trees all through here. But what I didn't take into consideration was the fact that there's, with this big field here in the middle like this, and the field over here next to it, made for very thin tree lines. Only 0.1 of a kilometer at the thickest locations, which isn't a lot of trees for deer to hide in, which also gave the trees very easy visibility in and out of both sides of these fields to any predators that might be coming in or any hunters like myself. So let's talk about some of the failures and problems with this area. So like I said on the map, the area that I was hunting, the natural lay of that land just was not very advantaged to me. It was definitely advantage to the deer. The way that those tree lines were so thin due to the field in the middle and the fields on the outside of the trees, it just made it a very easy spot for the deer to be able to hang out in the cover and see any predator or any hunter coming for miles. So they were picking me out way before I even realized that they could even hear me or see me. And I confirmed that later on in the season when I was out there picking up trail cams and driving around. I spooked some deer off the tree lines that I believed they were hanging in and busting me as I was coming in. So we definitely want to have a look at the lay of the land. I could answer yes to all those questions prior. Good food source, good bedding, good access, good wind direction, but just not enough thick, dense tree coverage for the deer to be deeper into the bush for me to be able to sneak in a little bit easier. So keeping that in mind when you're looking at your land of where you're hunting, try not to pick this type of area where it's real thin tree lines. The other thing that I was doing wrong that I wanted to share with you guys was I had one tree stand location that I was going into time after time. I was sitting in this tree stand being tempted by my trail cams, showing good pictures of good bucks at daylight hours. So I didn't want to leave this area. I stayed focused on this area. I'd go into this tree stand at 7 in the morning and come out at 7 at night. I would spend 12 hours in the tree. These are all bad ideas. One, having one tree stand doesn't give you any options, makes it very easy to pattern you. And two, being in the tree stand that long, I don't care how good your scent control is, you are going to put scent out into the atmosphere being in the tree that long. The other thing is I was going in at the same time, because we all think as hunters we got to get in the morning, we got to get in under dark, we got to get in at the specific time. Well, if we keep doing the same things over and over, same time, same tree, same direction, they're gonna pattern us. So we have to be flexible, we have to have options. So I started thinking about this, I started pondering this, and I changed my game after 2 months of sitting in this tree stand. I decided that was enough. I'm not going to sit here for another month and waste my whole hunting season. So I decided to have a better look at the land, and I started to use a concept at looking the land that I thought worked very well and brought success for me and my friend Evan. So let's have a look at that now. Okay, so back to the drawing board I went. And so where I was hunting was up in this location, which wasn't working out for me. I still had this cornfield here that I could use to my advantage. And so what I decided to do is put up 3 more tree stands. I ended up putting one right here so that I could keep an eye on the cornfield, but I also had a watering hole right over here that I was able to see from this tree stand as well, to see if deer were coming in and out of this watering hole. I wanted to put a tree stand over here, and I put a tree stand right over in here. So that gave me a few more options. The first place I decided to sit was in this tree stand right here. The first day I sat in this tree stand, I saw a buck already. It was the buck that I ended up rattling in on my video that I shot earlier this year. It was a really cool encounter. I was able to see deer moving throughout that day. I saw 3 bucks total that day. Rattled that one buck in to within 20 yards, which is a really cool encounter. And so I spent one day in that tree stand. The next day I went over to this tree stand. I didn't have any success in that tree stand. And then as I started seeing how the deer were moving and a little bit more knowledge for myself, I started to use this tool and this key that I believe is the reason why I had success this year. And what I want to talk to you and highlight to you in this video is using the land in the natural form that it lays to your advantage by finding funnels. And what I mean by funnels is the land can funnel deer down into specific areas by the way the trees end up going. If they taper down, they'll end up funneling deer down into specific locations. And so the reason why I ended up setting this last tree stand over here is because, as you can see, I have thick bush along here and here, and all of these trees end up funneling down this way into one location. Same with the trees over here. They all start funneling down into this one location. So let's have a closer look at this area. Okay, so here's this area in a lot closer look. I ended up having a trail camera right in the middle of this area. There's a fence line that crosses right through here, which runs about ½ kilometer long. So this was definitely a thicker bushed area. It had a lot more places for the deer to be hiding than the other area that I was at. I was able to come in on a good advantage point with the wind. I always came in from this direction over here and walked in this way, down through here, and I ended up setting up right on this corner here. The reason why I set up on this corner here is I was able to then have very good view out into this field. Out into this field here, if any deer were to cross through this field. And I was able to see the fence line here, because when I started looking at my trail cam photos, I was noticing that deer were crossing the field and also crossing in this dense tree location over the fence. So I felt putting myself on that corner location gave me the best opportunity for both situations. And I can tell you right now that using this strategy of looking for land that funnels deer down into a specific location paid off results for me and my friend Evan right away. So let's talk about that. Okay, so after studying this land and using the strategy of hunting in areas where the land funnels down into specific locations, I was really excited about getting into this spot after seeing all the trail cam photos that I had of deer moving through this area. And so the first morning that I went here, I walked in at 7 in the morning, and I walked in through here, down along the fence line, and got into my spot right here. I was there only for an hour and 15 minutes. At 8:15, a buck crossed through the field right here, jumped the fence 70 yards out in front of me. And that was when I was able to get my gun on him and shoot him and have success. The first morning that I sat in this spot, the first hour and a half, I had my buck down. And I was really excited, really happy, and felt that all that hard work, all those mistakes that I had made in the early season and the strategy change in the mid-season all ended up paying off for me. There's where I was sitting. That was my setup. Like I said, the trees all funnel down into this one spot here. So they have to cross right there, follow this fence line, or cross out in this open field. I can't express to you guys how much I believe in this strategy of using the land that funnels deer down into certain locations and setting up in there and finding out what's moving through there. So my friend Evan, who is also hunting in the area but not having much success, we started talking and I started sharing with him what I did and how I changed my strategy, and he got pretty excited about what I was saying, and so I brought him to this exact location and we decided to change it up. We went in at a different time. Instead of going in at the morning, we went in the afternoon. So we walked in at 1:30 in the afternoon. We used the same location to walk in because of the wind, and that's going to be always your deciding factor as how you get into your tree stand. So we walked in again through this spot, got to our location, set up at about 1:30, and at 2:15 a buck crossed the field over right here, 100 yards out in front of Evan. And we were able to capture this shot on film, and it was one of the earlier videos.
So happy
and
right
Evan
now.
got to harvest
This is the
his
first buck I've ever shot
using this strategy.
It's a couple years.
Well, as you can see, after I decided to change my strategy mid-season, it definitely brought success, and success quickly. I was only there for an hour and 15 minutes. I had my buck on the ground, and Evan, using the same strategy, had his buck on the ground in less than an hour. So I want to just recap the mistakes that I made on the early season. I was going into the same tree stand time after time, spending way too much time in that tree stand. I think it's a good idea to spend no more than 4 or 5 hours in the same tree stand at a time. I was going into that tree stand at the same times. I think it's important to change up what time you go into a specific tree stand. And I only had one tree stand set up. So I think it's important to have multiple tree stands. Give yourselves multiple options to keep those deer on their toes as well, because they will and do pattern you, believe it or not. So the other highlight that I had in my mistake there was the lay of the land just was not advantage to me. With those thin lines, those thin tree lines, the deer were able to see me for miles, even though I thought I was totally being quiet, totally being secretive, but it just wasn't the case. So look for those areas that you can get into easily, that have good wind advantage for you, that are going to have deep coverage for the deer. Look for those areas where they're going to be traveling between bedding areas and food sources. And I think you'll have good success. Look for those areas, like I said, that funnel deer down into specific areas. Big bucks want to use the most coverage they can possible to move in the daytime. So if you can find areas that are going to push deer into those locations and set up there, you will have success just like me and Evan did as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it brought a little bit of tip and information to you to be successful in 2015. Because here at Huge and Huge Outdoor Adventures, we want to make sure that you have success just as much as we do, and we hope you can learn from our failures instead of your own. So have fun, hunt safe, and God bless.